Hi everyone, welcome to Privacy Now. I'm Mike Fibus. There's been a lot of talk this year about enacting new legislation to help rein in social media and take back control of our privacy. But what if you don't want to wait? Pierre Valade says you don't have to. His startup Jumbo just released a new app that helps you wrest control of your information back from social media sites, all without ever even looking at your data themselves. So we're fortunate to have with us Pierre Valade today. He is CEO of Jumbo. Pierre, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Mike.
So let's start at the beginning. I've been playing with the app. I like it, and it's been fun to see you develop it. But why don't you fill everybody in? What is Jumbo?
Yeah, sure. So the idea behind Jumbo is, can we build an app that helps you as the user identify threats, like things that are putting your privacy at risk, whether it's data you have out there about you or whether it's settings that you didn't change. Can we help you identify those, explaining you in plain English why we think it's an issue, and then fixing them for you. So for example, a few weeks ago, we released our new feature, Scan Facebook, which is a good example of that idea where we let the user install Jumbo, and in one tap, they can log in with their Facebook. And then on the device, we analyze, without us seeing the data, without any server-side component, we analyze things like, is your birthday information public on Facebook? Can people look you up with your email address? Things that could put your privacy at risk. Because if your birthday is out there, like people can use that information to steal your identity, or if you can, or if anyone can look you up by your email address. Let's say you make a reservation, you're traveling, and then at the reception, they basically can check who you are just based on your email address, and they can find your Facebook, and then they maybe can find more information about you. And so, for example, on those two examples, we run a scan. And we let you know we don't think that's a good idea to have those things out there, and we basically, if you agree, we fix them for you. So we change the settings on Facebook on your behalf so that you're no longer exposed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great feature. And even, somebody like me that spends time digging into the privacy buttons, it's great to have an authority telling you, watching over your shoulder, did I miss anything? I mean, those things I wonder all the time, and you've got it covered for us.
Yeah, exactly. The goal is to scan so that you can get we don't change anything. We're just telling you what's wrong or what we think is wrong. You can disagree with us, but we explain in plain English why we think you shouldn't turn on those settings. And then if you agree, we fix them for you. And so we're doing that for Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Alexa at the moment, and we're planning to add support for more services.
As I look back at your timeline, it seemed like Jumbo came together very quickly. Were you working on it in the background for a while, or is this really that easy?
We started working on the first version of the app in January this year, and it took us about 4 months to put everything together as a V1. And then it's a team of 6 people here in New York City. And so we've been able to push updates pretty regularly after that. We're changing stuff based on the feedback of the users. And what I don't think we find really, the magic sauce yet for everyone. I think we're getting pretty close with every release.
Now, there's been a lot of call, of course, for APIs to help programmers, developers like yourself, to go in and take control, but that doesn't exist today. So it's how do you manage that?
So yeah, you're right. We don't have a way to work with Facebook and get a proper API access to change your settings on your behalf, or even just read them, right? So we have to basically use Facebook website where we ask the user to log in, and then we scrub the website. So we look for that information as if you were the user. So we write script that acts as the user and then look for that information. What's great is that we only do that client side, so we never see your data. And that's for us, that's a strong differentiator compared to maybe other services that want to do the same thing. But it's likely that in the future we are able to work, us and other people, right, to get a proper access through API.
So why the name Jumbo?
So we wanted to create a brand that was not too serious. I think if you approach privacy with gravity, it can be kind of like overwhelming, like, oh, all this data is already about you. And so we don't want it to stress people more than needed and make them afraid. So we wanted to find a brand that was approachable. So we thought, okay, Jumbo is this cute elephant that happens to have a bad memory in a world where all of the other elephants, like Google, Facebook, you name it, they're all like those giant elephants, and they have an amazing memory about you. Like they remember everything every website you went, every like you've subscribed to, and so on. And we wanted to do like the opposite, like an elephant in the jungle that just is cool and just happened to have a more of a bad memory, so that it doesn't remember everything about everyone forever.
So, yeah, speaking of your special elephant with the bad memory, I'd have to say I just love your privacy policy. Let me just read it for folks. We never collect, store, or process data you manage through Jumbo. In fact, we don't even know who you are. I love that. It's it goes on from there, but that states in no uncertain terms what your intentions are with our data.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's actually interesting because we see a lot of people actually reading our privacy policy and then giving us good feedback. And I also wrote the privacy myself with the help of a lawyer, and because I think it's an important foundation about what we do is like the CEO should know what is the privacy policy of the company. So I wrote it myself, and yeah, one of the decisions we made is to process all of everything we do is on the device. So when you ask Jumbo to look and say, hey Jumbo, is there anything wrong with my Facebook? We can give you that information, but it's basically from your iPhone. It never goes into our cloud. Your credential to access Facebook are never stored on our servers, and so on. So I think that it's even stronger than like oh, we don't want to look at your data, or like we have rules against looking at your data. Is like we literally cannot look at your data, whether it's me or another employee here or the government asking us for your data, Mike, because you're a user. I don't even know you're a user in the first place. And so it's really like the technical decision we've made, which sometimes is sometimes an annoying user experience because it would be easier for us to do things on the server, has a tremendous impact and benefits on the user privacy and on the security of the service.
Right. So it's all happening on the device then.
Exactly.
That's how you're able to avoid seeing anything.
Exactly. Like everything, which is like when we look at the data, when we change a setting, everything happened from your phone. So it's really as if you were on your phone doing it yourself and no one else would see that. It's exactly the same thing. So it's very secure, and it protects our user privacy really, really well.
Now, I saw on your website you've got a goal for 1 million, users by this year. I know it's early, but you feel like you're on track?
Yeah, I mean, we've been very happy with the launch. We've got more than 50,000 installed in the first months, and after that, things are going slower, which is expected. The thing we're really working on right now is making sure that the value proposition of the app is easy to understand, and making sure that the first session when people heard about Jumbo and then they come is actually a good one for them. And so that's why we're working a lot on the first user experience, what we call the activation, which is, can we give you some value right away? And once we have that nail, which we're working on, and I think we're making progress, then we'll be able to come back and get more users and acquire more users. Like when you think about it, I think getting PR for Jumbo, getting people to look at it, is quite an easy piece because people have been, over the last year and so on, more and more worried about their privacy for good reasons. And so they're looking for a solution like us, and no one is doing exactly what we do. The thing is that there is an interesting product challenge for us in like, how do we make what we do mainstream so that it's not only relevant for people who already are privacy aware, but like you can give it to, like I could give it to my mom and like she would know what to do. And we're working on that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're making good progress.
Yeah, you definitely are. I've been watching, the recent iterations, and it's getting better. So it doesn't escape me that Jumbo is free, and if you hit your goal of 1 million users, 1 million times zero is still zero. So I'm assuming you have revenue aspirations at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on this at the moment, which is like a Jumbo Plus offering where some of the features will be behind a paywall. But yeah, like there will be some features that will stay for free so that people can understand the value, and then like more advanced features, for example, features that are helping you protect your family and features that are helping you protect your finances, or like can be behind a paywall, and then people will be prompted to pay every month for Jumbo to keep protecting them and identify new threats and scanning on their behalf and making sure they're always secure.
Right. At the Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference this year, they announced interesting privacy controls, basically a random email address generator. So if someone does break into Facebook or Twitter or wherever, they don't have your email address. They have an address that's only good for that one spot. Is that good news for you? Bad news for you? It looks sort of, you could argue that that's kind of a first foray into a service like yours.
Yeah, I mean, we believe that we are part of a mission to help people feel more safer online, and whether it's people like DuckDuckGo, whether it's people like Dashlane as a password manager, whether it's people like Apple, like every contribution to making the web safer and more private is great. So I mean, we thought about building a feature like that. Apple is doing it even better. We can beneficiate from that feature ourselves as an app developer. We're thinking about building a newsletter, and we think we have interesting things to say, but at the same time, we didn't want to collect people's email address, and they're basically doing that for us, right? Like being the middleman between our users and us, and so we don't have their email address because we really don't want, if we cannot collect any information about you, that's what we want to do. We want to build a company where we never collect any information about it. So for us, it's actually a good feature for example, for those newsletter idea that we're working on. And overall, any contribution to the privacy space, we welcome that.
So I assume Android is on your roadmap as well?
Yeah, Android is super important for us. I mean, we're a small team, so we had to make the decision between iOS and Android. But definitely we see a lot of people asking for the Android app. We want to get bigger in Europe at the end of the year. And in Europe, you have even more Android devices than iOS devices. So we're currently hiring an Android engineer, and it's going well. So I think by the end of this year, we'll have the Jumbo on Android too.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So now that I think about it, though, with Apple having sort of the random email generator and sign in with Apple, that's not going to be on Google. That's, I guess, one of the many complications of having to balance multiple platforms, huh?
Yeah, but I think it's likely that Google introduced the same thing. I mean, the way I think about it is that, it's not just you or me saying, privacy is important, and then just, Apple listening to the two of us because they like us. It's basically, the most valuable company in the world, which are probably spending a lot of money in marketing and understanding what people want, decided that privacy is the number one thing, right? Like a lot of the marketing of Apple is going into privacy. And even if you look at the Google I/O recently, Google is also spending a lot of money on that, whether it's like by shipping a feature where they can auto-delete people's search after a while, or by moving more of the to the on-device machine learning algorithm, it's not just Apple and Google like being nice. It's just like they know there is a user demand, and so I think it's very likely that we see Google introducing the same thing. The question is like, do they have the brain to do it? Like they definitely have the capabilities and the distribution to put that as a default feature. I think the issue that they have, which Apple and people like us don't have in the same order of magnitude, is that what is the trust? What trust do I have in Google to do that right? What trust do I have in Facebook to do that right if they wanted to do the same thing? And for us, it's a big issue. Like, can we create trust over time? Of course, Apple has a tremendous amount of trust because they don't sell ads. They have no incentive to track you more than they need. And we also don't have any incentive to track you at all because you will pay for the product.
Right, right. I couldn't help noticing when you talked about the 1 million community members of the community on the website. It implies to me that there's some value in the critical mass. What do you see? Do you see us interacting with each other?
No, because it's very likely we never try to ask you for your email or for a password. We're going to try to stay away from that. There is definitely some leverage that we create, like we were talking about the API. Like if I can go and say to Facebook, well, Jumbo is being used by 1 million people to manage their privacy on Facebook. Give us a way so that we can work better together. It's more convincing to them than if I say we have 10 people using it and be nice. And so I think having leverage on Facebook, on Twitter, having leverage on company like Uber and Lyft, who don't give you a way to erase your ride history. Like if we have 1 million people, we also become the advocacy for those people and say, you know, Uber, you should give us a way to delete the rides. Like I don't want you to know where I've been 2 years ago. There is no value in me giving you that information forever. And so, yes, I think we see a part of the mission is to get to critical mass so that we can, you know, influence regulation to protect privacy better. We can influence those big companies and campaign for more privacy, not only for us, Jumbo, but just for in general, right? For everyone.
Right, that makes sense. Is the PC or Mac OS are those on your horizon?
No, I don't think so because like smartphones are just way more mainstream. And there is not a strong reason for us to run on your desktop. If we had one, we would think about it. But I think most of the things we want to do, we can do it from your phone and we can just reach out more people. It's easier for anyone to download an app than to go on, you know, on their laptop and install something and keeping up to date. So it's unlikely we go and build any experience on the desktop anytime soon.
I'm curious, have you had any exposure to what the social media sites think of Jumbo, how they perceive you?
Yeah, we we got a little bit of feedback from them at you know when we launched, and some of them were not necessarily happy with what we're doing. So far, I've made the decision to have a constructive conversation with them. Like I'm not like Jumbo or myself, you know, we're not against social media or people using social media. We're just about you know, helping people feel safer online and not spending hours figuring out how to change their settings. So I'm keeping those discussions private for now. And I think at the end of the day, it's very likely that they start helping us more than they start to fight us. But if they do fight us, then we'll take the fight because I think we're standing on the right side of history on this one, and we'll engage with the community to help us. So I think I'm looking more forward for productive discussion with, you know, the service we integrate with.
Yeah, there's no question that, you know, the winds of change, I guess, are upon us with privacy, and at some point they're going to have to help rather than hinder. I agree. Pierre, it was great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mike. Looking forward for more conversation as we move forward on our vision.
Likewise. And thank you all for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.